So let's listen to all of that together. Hi guys, SKETI here, welcome to a new tutorial. This time we're going to look at how to make kawaii style chords for future bass or chiptune style music. So let's get to it. Right, first things first, I'm just going to go through the chords that we've got here. Obviously you can make your own chord patterns, and if you are struggling to make chord sequences, I do have a video which I will link in this sort of section of the video. But what we have to start with, so this is in F major, but with a couple of chords that don't fit. So I have actually sort of broken a few rules, but it sounds quite cool, the finished product. So we've got F major 9 there. We've got E dominant 7 because the 7th is flattened, but it's a major E major chord. We then have A minor 9. We then have a chord that could either be G minor 6 or C7 add 9, depending on how you look at it. Because if we take out the root C here, it's actually G minor 6. But adding in the C, it's C dominant 7 add 9. The next chord we've got is D minor 9 here. The next chord we've got is E dominant 7 again, just like this one here, but with the major third up the top as well, which is only here in this chord. And then we've got a cool thing which is quite apparent in a lot of this kawaii style music, where I've gone to the A minor 9, which is the third chord in the scale of F major, but then basically I've dropped it down to A flat minor 9 and then G minor 9, and if you look, these two chords are the same, and those two chords, so it's basically I just copied and pasted 1, 2, 3, and then to end it off I've got a G minor 6 at the end. But just to listen to that last transition here, so it's one of those popular sequences that's used in this style of music quite a lot. But let's listen through to the chord sequence all together before I look at how I've made the sound. Again, you can copy this chord pattern here, and so you can sort of add it to your own tunes and experiment further, seeing how far you can take the chords. But this little sort of like interval where it just goes down those steps, so in this case it's the third down to the second, but also I found that the fifth down to the fourth chord in the scale works quite well as well. So that's the chord pattern. Let's have a look at the actual synth itself. So what I've done with this, I've used an operator, and basically it's just the first one. I've dropped it down an octave to the 0.5 on the coarse tuning, and all this is the saw D here, because obviously you've got a section of like saw 3, 4, and that's how many steps. So like you've got 3 there, how many different harmonics above the fundamental. So saw D basically is like the square E, where it's all of the harmonics that can possibly be included in this, what would you call this, the waveform editor basically, yeah? The next thing that I did is, because if you look at some of the chords, there's more than 6 notes. When we go into operator, it defaults to just having 6 voices playing at once. So I've actually just maxed it out to 20, so I can play like really complicated chords if I want to. The next thing that I've done is this is where the sort of like main shape of the sound comes from. I've set the soft clip with 7.5 decibels of gain. I've then also set the filter frequency to 575 Hz with a resonance of 34%, and also added an envelope to it, so that's 220 milliseconds of attack, 1.87 seconds of decay, and then I've just kept pretty much everything else the same, except for the peak I changed to 76%. And then the level I set just to minus 8.8 decibels. You can turn that louder or quieter, it's entirely up to you. That doesn't really affect the sound, except it turns it up or turns it down. So yeah, that's pretty much the operator itself, and we'll just have a quick listen to that again. So if you were to copy this operator that I've created here, that's the sound that you would get. So like basically a saw with an envelope on the frequency filter basically. Right, so now into the effects. First thing I added was an OTT, and this is just basically the multiband compressor in Ableton Live, and obviously there's an OTT preset for it, which if you use Serum and you turn the multiband compressor on in that's basically what, it's very similar design to the OTT. I've kept the bands pretty much the same. All this really was there to do was just to add some extra lift to the sound, and then we'll listen to that now. And again, you can copy these settings. I think I'd turn these up slightly because I think they're originally set to 10.8 decibels. So 13 decibels there, 10.9 decibels and 14.6 decibels. And I did mess around a little bit here just to lift some of the areas up. So a little bit more in the bass, and the mids and the top end I lifted a little bit as well. The next thing that I added after that was just a redo tool, and that's just basically downsampling with the hard bit turned on. Instead of soft, so you can sweep from 1 to 20 and then hard. This basically downsampling is taking away how many samples are in the sound that's generated, so this actually causes a lot of destruction to the sound if we listen to it now. So yeah, the resolution of that sound that's going into it has been brought down quite a lot. If I turn it to soft, you can hear it's a lot less that happens. Yeah, in soft you have to sweep it a lot further for it to actually cause that resolution degrade amount as much as it was in the hard version. So I've set that to 5. Just a quick listen again. Cool. I'm going to come back to this section a bit because this is an optional thing that you can do if you want to get that sort of fluttery sound that's often found in future bass style music. Next thing was an EQ8, so we've got a high pass filter set at 63.9 Hz just to get rid of, because obviously we've got a bass line in this as well when I play the music, just to get rid of any of the bottom end that I don't need. Bit of a peak at 74 Hz, another peak at 4.64 kHz, and then a low pass filter at 18 kHz, because obviously with bringing in this bit crusher here and the OTT, there's a lot of top end, so I just brought some of that out. A glue compressor to finish off, but one thing I am going to turn on is the stereo touch. Now this doesn't come with Ableton Live, but it is a free tool. It's by Voxenjo. It's a great tool for just adding stereo width. It does take a minute to get it to sound good because there's a very, very fine-tuned settings, and it can easily make something sound really bad stereo width wise, but it does come with a high pass filter, which is cool, so you're not stereoizing the bottom end. But if you don't have that, you can just use, if we go back to the operator here, just the spread here, and you can turn it up. But the reason why I use stereo touch is it's a better stereo spread than this here when you look at the actual frequency spectrum and the stereo field after the fact when you've done this. So let's have a listen to what that sounds like now, and I'll turn these two off as I'm playing it back so we can hear the difference. So you can hear that stereo touch really does bring in some width to the sound if you obviously listen on headphones and stereo speakers. If you're listening through an iPhone speaker, you won't hear that width change much or at all because it's a mono speaker. And this last little section here is basically an LFO like I did in the lo-fi piano tutorial, and this LFO is just affecting, if I just turn this on because I've grouped it together, so that's affecting a utilities gain output and also the frequency here. So I wanted to separate out from just controlling this volume dial and the frequency dial here in the operator. I've separated that out, and this is what that sounds like now. So it gives you that real future bass sort of style, fluttering wobbly kind of chords that you get if you listen to like people like Flume and other future bass artists as well. And all I've done with this is a depth of 37.8% on a quarter note, 75% phase, because I found when the sine wave kicked in, it worked better at 75% phase instead of either 0 or 100. And then these are the settings for the frequency and the gain, 32% to 60% and 27% to 59%. So just a quick listen to that again. So obviously this is entirely up to you what kind of sound you want in. I prefer it for this one without, because when we listen together with all of music, it sounds quite cool, all of it together. And all I've got here is a drum line, a bass line, and then a little bit of a sort of melody arpeggio over the top of it. So let's listen to all of that together. So there you go, and the bass line is just literally following the root notes of these chords here, nothing special. And then the arpeggio I was just playing around with just to fit the chords, so basically taking the notes and creating a little melody line around it. Anyway guys, I hope you found this tutorial useful and it helps you create these kind of sounds in your music. If you like this, please leave a like, subscribe, share, hit the notification bell as well so you see more of these videos in future. Leave a comment if you've got any suggestions or questions that you're curious about this, or any suggestions for future videos. Anyway guys, thanks for watching. I'll see you next time. Bye.
Everybody jump up, come on!